Hi, so welcome back to the Green Mantle, and today we're going to continue building our shelters in the garden. So the whole idea of building shelter for ourselves, these are ancient techniques that I'm using, and these very techniques would have been used by ancient people to actually build their homes and their shelters that they lived in, and places to keep their animals and all those sorts of things. So the skills that we're learning, they're not new, they're really, really old skills. And these same techniques have occurred all over the world. So using natural materials, it's one of the oldest things that humans have done in terms of building shelters. Building a shelter for yourself, this is a special part of my garden, and I'm kind of thinking of building the shelter not just to protect me from the weather, but the idea of a symbolic shelter to protect me from what's going on in the outside world. And this is a lovely spot. I chose it here because there's the water coming in, and a special part of my garden. My favourite dog is in there, and there's a few pieces of art and things growing around here and some special plants. So when you're choosing a place to put your own structure, you can choose it for all kinds of reasons, but also you need to think about the practical reasons. And one is that what's on the surface. So again, here we were able to build a bigger structure, putting the sticks down into the ground, and these sticks are really nice, strong ones, widely spaced, and we were able to do that here where the ground's soft. However, I also showed this way of doing it, where you can actually use the base to make a structure that's freestanding, and then you could move this structure to anywhere you wanted after it was made. I'll talk about anchoring the structures. If you're thinking about your location and where you're going to put it, this structure is very well anchored, and also this shape is very firm. It's wide at the bottom, and a curve is always very strong. So thinking about your shape, and also thinking about how you're going to hold it there. If you can't put it into the ground, you may need to think about attaching it to something else, or building the structure extra strong at the bottom, or extra wide at the bottom to give it stability. Okay, so what I'm doing here now is sorting out the materials for the next part of our structures, and I think all your willows, when you get them, there's all different sizes in the bundle, so I'm really sorting out the biggest, heaviest, longest ones, the next size down, and a smaller size again. So some will be used for the weaving, and some we're going to use for extra uprights for our structures. Okay, so this structure on the left here is quite a big structure, and the first thing I'm going to do today is strengthen some of these uprights. And it's most important if you strengthen the uprights in the doorways. They can take quite a lot of hammering, especially if you've got children. People will go in and out hanging off the doorways, so a bit of extra strength in the doorways is always good. And I've got some really big sticks here, so I'm going to be cutting these down a bit. And all you do is cut a point on the end, and you can put it, I'm actually going to use this one here, not in the doorway. You can shove it down beside the upright like that. Now these are fresh willow sticks, and if I was to shove them really down into the ground there and use the spike again, these would actually grow potentially and turn into new willow trees. I don't really want them to do that here. I just want them to be strong in the structure, so I'm just pushing them down into the weave. So I'm not joining into every single one, just where I think they're a little bit thin, and the place that it's going is down here beside the stick into the weave beside the upright, so you're just shoving it down in there alongside there, and that strengthens the small one. And you can join in uprights at any time like this. If an upright snaps or if one's too short or for whatever reason, you can always join in a new upright by shoving it down alongside one of the old ones. So the original uprights that I used here were hazel, and they don't grow if you just put them into the ground. But the second ones I used, the strengthening sticks, I've actually used willow, and I say they would grow if they were down into the ground enough. So just to know the difference between those two. And another good reason for using willow for my second uprights is that they are a lot more flexible than the hazels. So this is a kind of safeguarding. If my hazels snap, there's a good chance that my willows will bend into the shape that I want to make my structure. So when you've got the board, obviously your uprights can only go in as far as the board and into that first bit of weaving. So this is where sometimes a little bit of tape can come in handy. You can tape this to this to hold it in place as you go. Or you can even, so if you take the short willow like this, a small thin one, hold the end and then wind around. And you can do that kind of a tie anywhere, anytime on your structure, temporarily or even permanently. And that'll hold the sticks together and in place and stop them from falling out while we're weaving. I've got the string on the top here, that was to hold them in place while I got the first bit of weaving on. And if you wanted to just make a plain teepee, if you can pull this in tighter and that'll organise your shape for you and you can keep working up. And if you want to make a structure that's wider, you may at this stage want to take the string off because it can start working against you and pulling the sticks in when maybe you want to come up a little bit straighter. So I'm going to take the string off mine now for the next bit of weaving. I might put it on again later on. So now I'm going to show you two different ways of building up the weave. The weave I showed you here at the bottom is a great weave for tying things together and for holding the uprights really firmly, and we will be using that weave again later on. But for building up the sides, this weave uses a lot of material and it's very slow to build up the height. So on the two structures now, I'm going to show you two different ways that you can build up height more quickly. And I've sorted out some weavers here. The most important thing again is that your weavers don't outweigh your uprights. Your uprights should always be the strongest things in the structure. So here I'm going to just start at the doorway and I'm going to just lay in a stick like that, and I'm going to start weaving him this time just in and out. Okay, so you can join straight away underneath and continue weaving with the two sticks. And remember, the sticks all get thinner as they go up, so you can keep making joins, and so long as the 3 or 4 sticks together don't outweigh the strength of your upright, you can work away. So you can control the uprights as well by doing this. Sometimes the uprights start to do a concertina, one in, one out, and your weaver will end up going in a straight line. So keep doing this to keep your shape. And if you try to keep your weavers in a line like this, so they're not bunching in on top of each other, you'll build up height a lot more quickly. So it's not always easy to turn around the corner, so I'm just going to use these thin ends of the sticks and take each one very slowly round. Don't make any joins too close to the end. And Don't worry if they snap or if you can't get them to go around the corner, because I'll be showing you some ways to deal with that later on. If you're using bigger sticks or very, very fresh sticks like these, there's a good chance that they won't turn around the corner. And a lot of the things you get in the hedgerow wouldn't necessarily be actual basketry willows, so again they might not be that flexible. Great for the weaving, but so I'll be showing you what to do to resolve that later. Meanwhile, I can just start again with the new one, and I'm going to show you another little tip for speeding things up, not just making regular joins. But you can also join in a second set of weavers. So it's on the other side of that one, and this will weave along on top of the one before it, but following the opposite pattern. You just have to remember where you are and join into the first one and take that ahead, and then join into the second one and take that ahead. Another good way to join is sometimes if they're a little bit strong, you can actually feed back the fat part of the stick carefully like that, and then you can weave with the thinner, easier part. I'll do that here again just to show you. Tuck it in and then weave with the rest. So doing this work, it's very active, it's very physical, it's quite hard work. It's a nice thing to do outside in nature, and a good way to get some exercise whilst building something beautiful in your garden. And it's good to use your whole body, your shoulders and your elbows and your back, not just your arms and your hands. So at any time during your weaving, and it's a good idea to do it occasionally to put strength into the piece, and anytime you want to finish a particular band of weaving and move on to something else, it's a good idea to go back to the pairing weave at the bottom, like down here. So and remember, that's done using 2 weavers at the same time. So here I'm just going to join in, and I'm going to put my first one like this, behind here and in front of the open doorway stick, and then these 2 I'm going to put under and behind the stick there, and then I'm going to weave this time. Remember, they cross in the same space and come out in the next space along. Once it's come out here, it's finished with, we take this one over and out, take this one over and out, and I deliberately joined in some really good strong willows for that, to help control my uprights and keep the whole thing neat and strong. The straight in and out weave is really good for building height, but it just doesn't have the strength that this weave with the twist has. to join into the one you're about to weave with. Make sure the end is laying behind the upright and weave away with that one. And it's always a good idea, if you join to one weaver, join to the other to keep them balanced. Lay in the new one and away you go. So I'm just going to start another 2 sets here and weave back the other way, and that'll put a really nice lot of strength into there. And I'll just weave these sticks away now, and that leaves a good band of solid weaving before we go on to the next stage. Okay, so on this structure here, the uprights are much further apart and stronger, so we can go much bigger with the weaver. The principle is more or less the same. We're now just going to weave in and out. And like these sticks here, I wouldn't worry if they've got side branches or anything like that. I'd just weave in whatever I could lay my hands on at this stage. And the most important thing though, remember, is if you're joining in 2 weavers together, that they don't outweigh your uprights. So like on the other one, I'm going to start at the doorway and I'm just going to weave in and out with these. But this time I'm not going to build up my bunches. I'm going to weave each stick out its length. I'm going to take another pair and I'm going to start these in the next space along. Oh, make sure it's doing opposite to the last weaver. Doesn't really matter what happens with the tops, you can just weave them in as they come. So each upright has a pair of sticks on it. So I move forward 1 stick each round. Okay, so when you get to the point where these big sticks would be having to turn around the corner, it's a good idea to stop and start coming back the other way. So this is going to be my last weaver in this direction. And this weave won't build up evenly, but that doesn't matter. And I'll be showing you how to accentuate the slope in the weave, if that's what you want to do. So now, instead of trying to come along and turn the corner every time, I'm simply going to start and go back the other way. I say don't worry if one breaks, you can just shove in this one a bit further back, or you could have joined in a new one. I'm loving the catkins on these. they've actually come out since the willows were cut. Okay, so as you can see, this weave actually builds up the work higher at the back, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to use this as a design feature. And you can see that just building these structures, it physically uses a lot of material and it is hard work. So to make it a little bit more realistic, rather than weaving the whole thing solidly, you can just weave up the back part a little bit higher, because this is where the most shelter and protection is needed. So I'm just going to show you now how to accentuate that and how to make the back part even higher, just by adding in some more sticks. Again, I'm using these huge weavers and all the branches on them, and I'm not going to start at the beginning this time. I'm going to start here, sort of just a few in from the beginning. Again, starting 2 sticks on the same upright and just weaving them in and out. Until they run out, and then I'll start 2 more over here. And with these big ones, it's a good idea to feed back the fat part of the stick. It's very strong. It's a really good weaver. Oh. And this time I'm going to just start 2 more coming in the opposite direction. So I work once from one side and then once from the other. So I put 4 sticks in over there and wove them. So here I'm going to do the same thing, and I started on my 4th upright from the door. And because these sticks are really strong, they really build up height quite quickly. And remember, I can only weave with these really big sticks because I've got a big spacing and strong uprights. Okay, so I built the back of the structure up higher on this one, and now I'm going to do the same as the other one. I put on a row of pairing just to consolidate all this weaving and hold it all firmly before I move on to the next stage. So it's joining in 2 good strong ones here, but this one should be under there like that, and then away I go. And this time I think I am going to make a join. Because of the size of this gap, I need to keep my weaver very strong. So I just weed those sticks out now and start another pair from the other side. Okay, so one of the problems here is that you can't always turn round a corner with the willows, and certainly if you're weaving with hazel, it's very difficult to turn the corner. So I have a little trick that'll help hold the ends in and add extra strength to the piece. And what I have here is just some tie-in wire, some thin flexible wire, and I'm going to put that in my piece. This is just farmer's fencing wire. I actually got this off a skip. It was a tangle. And I'm going to first of all go all the way around the outside post, like that. And you won't really see this in the weave. And here I'm just going to twist the wire a couple of times. And then, as if I was doing the willow weave, I'm going to go behind there and capture that. And I just keep going at that. And this will stop that end post from falling out, even if you can't get a turnaround with the sticks. So when you get to the end of the wire, it's a good idea to deal with the actual ends now and tuck them down into the weave, wrap them around a stick, do whatever's needed to make those safe. I'm going to wrap this one away and tuck it down into the weave. And you can use a pair of pliers for that if you can't get it in there. And that'll stop this from falling out. And I would put one of those here and on the other side on each of the structures before I went any further. Okay, so one more thing I want to show you is how to make a circle out of willow. And willow circles, and using them, they're really, really handy for all kinds of structures. And I just think it's a really important technique to learn. And then I'm going to make several of them and build them into these structures here. Okay, so first of all, if we want to make a willow into a circle, a good thing to do is to soften it, and you can do this just by bending it around your knee and be very gentle, because it's very easy to kink them at this stage. A kink is when you get a right angle bend on it, and while we don't need to be too fussy about the shape of our circle, we don't really want it to be kinked at this stage. One problem with making large circles is that you're very limited to the size of your stick, and your stick really has to reach all the way around and tie. So this one, I'm going to cross these over, and then I'm going to tuck the thick end in. I'm going to wind the other end around. And when you're making big circles like this, our good friend, the tape, can come in very handy, because that stick isn't really woven together enough to hold at this stage. So a small piece of tape will hold that while I get some other sticks on and make the whole thing stronger. So there's the basic circle just taped together for now. and I'm going to join in a new stick, and I'm going to join it in a different place to where the end of the last one was. So join in the new stick and start winding the new stick into that shape that you've created. You can soften the second stick on your leg if you think it's necessary. And when you get towards the thin end of the stick, you can wind around a little bit tighter and start tucking the ends in to finish. And you can put as many sticks onto these as you like, and you can put them in any direction, but you're going to need a few if you want it to be strong. Adjust the shape as you go. And try to take the willow in the widest loop that you can. So you can leave the tape on if you want to. You can even make it decorative, but if you don't, now is a good time to take it off before you've got too many sticks woven into it. Once the weave is started and established, that should hold together now, even though the tape's removed. Okay, so that's nice and strong now, and I'm going to make a few of these and then show you how to join them into the structures that we're building and different ways that you might use them.